All right, well, welcome everybody to the Journey Builder Bootcamp, our deep dive series. This is session number 6. We've got Rafal today, who's going to be going into amazing detail on the data binding and the context model. Before I pass it off to him, just want to let you know that, again, we have our hands-on building sessions every Wednesday. So we have a session tomorrow. If you'd like to participate and be a builder, just mention it in the chat. We'll add you to that, and I'll pass it off to Rafal.
Okay, hi. This session will be about data binding and the contact model. First of all, I will be introducing myself. So I have like 7 years of experience with Marketing Cloud. I started my career basically as a consultant, but now I'm an in-house architect / developer taking care of integrations and the data flow. I got selected last year for the Marketing Cloud Champion class of 23. I have a technical blog about Marketing Cloud, and my article on data binding is actually the reason why I'm here. This will be kind of an extension of that article, so I will be sharing the links later, of course. And you can also see me from time to time being active on the Salesforce Slack exchange under my real name with this windmill logo. And you can follow me on LinkedIn to get major updates when I inform people about new articles. I don't share crazy stuff, so yeah, consider following. But first of all, this session will be going into extreme detail about the update contact activity. So be warned, get coffee or whatever you can, and let's see what you can learn. We'll learn how the update contact activity works. It's quite quirky. And we'll learn what's data binding, how we can use it and not get crazy and cause errors. And we'll discuss some basic use cases that you can achieve using data binding. And if we have time, but this is what I'm not sure about, I'll try to answer some questions that you might have. But I have a lot of slides and I don't know if we can finish in time. So what is our goal here? For this session, extending kind of the article they already wrote, I set up with a purpose. What do I want to achieve? So imagine that we have a journey and we have 3 points that we want to log in the journey. So you could say it's the right after entry, the middle of the journey, and when the contact exits the journey. So our requirements would be this. We want to create a journey log that can be used to log the current state of the contact and journey data. It should work correctly, even if the customer enters the same journey multiple times. Like, journey is triggered by API calls or automations. And this means that as a correct result, we understand that each round of the contact through the journey is a separate record. So it shouldn't overwrite what's already there. And it could be used by multiple journeys, like the underlying data extension could be used by multiple journeys so that you don't have to create a journey log for multiple journeys and make it crazy. Just one should be enough. And how could the log look like? So we have these versions where each of those activities creates a new record and stores whatever data we decide to grab there. But there's also a second option. So this is an option where each run of a person through the journey leaves just one record, and separate columns get populated by separate update contact activities. Yeah. So this will be our goal here, and this is why we are diving deep into update contact and kind of need to understand data binding. So for the start, I created a date extension, a test group, which will be used to trigger date extension-based journeys. We have only 6 records, and this means that for our use cases, for our goal logs, this would mean that in this case, we should create 6 records. And for this structure would create 6 times 3, because 6 people times 3 activities should equal 18 records then. I sometimes also use an API call to trigger the journey faster for my tests. And it's also worth checking what can be done with it. So diving deep into the update contact activity. We can find it in the customer update section, where it's the only object of our Journey Builder canvas that we can use of this category. What's the first screen? We select the data extension, and it's kind of tricky because it's easy to realize that, oh, my data extension is not visible by this activity. And this happens only when the data extension is not sendable. If it's not, it will not be visible and selectable by this activity. And when reading on this, I saw people connecting those journey logs they create, being connected to attribute groups in Contact Builder. This doesn't need to be done, so data designer doesn't have to be used. And I also prefer it not to be connected for my use case, because it's kind of a mess if you add too many attribute groups. Especially if you would want to have separate logs for separate journeys. Then when we select the data extension, we can add attributes and select them from the dropdown. What's kind of was annoying for me, and kind of is even now, is that we can only select to 5 attributes here that we can put into our journey log. So this is kind of limiting, and this is something I was wanting to overcome with this structure, where we have 1 record for the entire journey, where different update contact activities would put data into separate columns. So this was kind of our workaround for the limitation. But yes, it seems very limiting at first, and it's kind of daunting when you look at it and you see those text fields are blinking, you don't know what to write. And it starts to get kind of confusing what to do with this field. What should I put here? So I guess if you start exploring this, you already have learned AmpScript. You know you can just set AmpScript in subjects and just pass things here. So what can you say? It's AmpScript time. So we'll try to use AmpScript here. So we want to be clever. We use personalization strings. Want to push the subscriber key, generate a random ID, because we know a record needs individual records need individual IDs, and we log what's the name of our journey. And what will happen? So our test group contains 6 contacts. Our data extension has 1 primary key, subscriber key. I should have also the random ID as a key here, but for this example, it works. And the result is kind of disappointing. Okay, I need to mention the subscriber relationship because it will be very important later on. And the result we have is that it only creates 1 record. So 6 contacts entered the journey, and we have only 1 record. Yeah, that's kind of disappointing, but how did it happen? And then the next slide can kind of explain that. I forgot first when doing my tests to set up my primary key on the subscriber key. So it's created 6 records. adding the subscriber, the primary key, like here, caused the data extension to only log one record. It's not really one, it's those 6 records first written into one record. So the main problem here is that upstream doesn't work. And yeah, we need to find some kind of way to be able to push at least the subscriber key into the data extension. So there's a hidden logic behind the update contact activity that is not didn't know until recently, actually. Adam Spriggs describes it in his article and how it works. So the fix for our update contact activity is quite strange. You saw that previously I had the subscriber key as a personalization string here. So we can fix that by removing the subscriber key from the attributes we are pushing into with the update contact activity. And this will actually result in the update contact activity getting the contact key, subscriber key, however you want to call it, from the subscriber relationship of the data extension. Yeah, you can see that this was my first record created by the journey with the primary key. And now the 6 records of my test group are correctly logged in this data extension. So the logic is kind of strange. So if we don't put anything in the fields corresponding to the subscriber key relationship of the data extension, which you can see here that the subscriber key relates to the subscriber key, then the journey knows it should be used subscriber key of the person passing through the journey. Yeah, and as I mentioned, the data extension doesn't need to be added to the attribute group for this to work. This was also nicely described by Nobuyuki Watanabe. But it also means that while I told you first that we have the limitation of 5 fields pushing the limitation of pushing 5 values into the data extension, this will mean we have 5 of those defined explicitly, and the 6th one being the subscriber key. So actually 6 values can come from one single update contact activity. The hidden logic is kind of there when we retrieve the journey through an API call, and we can see that the activity, which the update contact activity is, has some arguments. It receives the contact key by default in the journey. And this notation is actually what you can call a data binding expression. You can see another expression here. Yeah, so we now know how to log one, create a log with one update contact activity inside of the journey. So let's try with more. So let's start with 2. First, we'll be just logging the person, creating a simple log. So our record contains, will automatically receive the subscriber key, and also we have 2 control points we want to log. So imagine that if you would have like different splits and stuff like this, then this would be worth logging. And this time our data extension will have 2 primary keys because we will be logging both the subscriber key and the control point. And the subscriber key will get populated by the relationship. And the disappointment, we receive only 1 record per person. So this is not what we wanted. We wanted 2 records per person at least, because we have 2 primary keys. So this composite key structure should give us, for example, for test contact 1, it should give us two records for control point 1 and control point 2. So the conclusion we can have is that the second update activity overwrote the values logged by the first activity. And the second added primary key is not respected. So disappointed with that, we try to do a data extension with no primary keys. It's possible. So if there's no primary key, like the upset should work. So it should create two records per person. But sadly, it still doesn't. So in practice, it means that the second update contact activity again overrode the values logged by the first activity. And although the primary key was configured, it's ignored. And what takes precedence is actually the subscriber key relationship. This is kind of the only subscriber key, the primary key respected by used by the update contact activity. So what we have learned. Until now, we know that you cannot use AmpScript, which is limiting because we cannot generate random IDs, which will be a problem with more complex needs like we would have with more complex journeys. We cannot get all data we would want, and the subscriber key relationship acts like a hidden primary key, ignoring all our keys are configured in the data extensions. So, and we can also log those up to 6 values, including the primary key. So let's dive into data binding. So this is a session without configuring custom journey builder activities. We just use the update contact block. So this is someone for a topic that can be used for our people delivering the deep dive sessions here. But before we dive into that, we need to understand the difference between update contact, between journey data and contact data. So journey data does not change over the course of the journey. When people enter the journey, their data is kind of frozen in time, which we kind of describe as a snapshot, and it's everything that goes into those entry events. Contact data, on the other hand, is the real-time user data from attribute groups from the contact model and contact builder. So we have our beautiful data designer. We add groups there. We connect data extensions, and we can grab those values as well. So data binding is primarily used to feed data into activities. You saw the code of an API call returned, so that the contact key is kind of supplied to be used. But it's also used by creators of custom journey builder activities that can bind entry data to their activities as well, which is very powerful. Data binding has access to journey data. There's contact data with attributes groups. Context-specific data that are specific to a journey, and interaction data that are a result, an output of different activities in the journey. It uses Mustache template, the Mustache template language to work with objects that are more complex. I will show an example of this. And you might have bumped into it configuring creation of or update of Salesforce objects. So you have the option to select from journey or contact data there. So which I will show an example of. But there are multiple data binding expressions that we can use. As you can see, they are using the handlebar syntax. And what should you learn? The most powerful one is the contact key. It allows you to get use the string to populate the subscriber key value in the update contact block or even Salesforce activities. This string, which starts with contacts, then relates to its attributes, and attributes set names and attribute names. This allows us to get specific values from that are in contact data. So imagine you have an email subscriber, and in this way you can grab the email demographics and the language code of the given person, and it will say like it's, for example, UK or MX. You can also grab default values for a given contact. So what's the default SMS number, phone number to receive SMS? There's also the interaction defaults object. So this is something that when you configure go into settings of a given journey, you decide if the email address or mobile phone number should be taken from the entry source or the contact data. So this allows you to get that value and also put it into the data extension. Might be useful for some debugging of contacts. Also, there are context strings, so they refer to the journey itself. So we can retrieve the definition of a journey. So this might be valuable to log if you have journeys that change names over time. Each new version could have a different name. So this way you could have a specific ID that just refers to the simple version of like allows you to log the definition ID. And what's very powerful is the context definition instance ID. So this is a value that is kind of like a random ID of each individual journey run. So if a person would enter the version of a journey 3 times, this means they will generate the three different IDs. This presentation will be shared afterwards. I need to edit it because it contains some animations. Context is test. This didn't work for me. At least it caused my update contact to fail, so I need to recheck, and I'll put that in the final version of the presentation. Publication ID is also kind of the code of the version of the journey, but you can also retrieve just the numeric value, so which version of the value it is. And start activity key refers to the other activities that are inside of the journey. And you can also have 2 different, there's also the event object, which allows you to get data from the entry source. So journey data is kind of, or event data is journey data. But there's a strange way to retrieving this my custom entry event key is kind of hard. And there are methods retrieving that with basically inspecting the HTML code of the Journey Builder webpage, but I find that insane, so I'm using a different method. And also there's the interaction activity customer key and outer argument name string that allows us to get data from other activities that put values out that can be used in the Journey Builder. One example of this is are those Salesforce contact, Salesforce object activities. If you put them at the start of the journey or before the update contact activity, you can actually use the syntax to log the ID of the record that has been created or updated. But there's a clever way to get this and do this as well, which I will be showing. But first, let's get into the attribute groups. No, sorry. So imagine that we have a structure like this. So this is contact data defined in the data designer. We have one attribute group with 2 levels and 2 data extensions connected to each other. And if you wanted to, and they follow the specific pattern that we must name the first start our expression with contact, then I said attribute, and in double quotes we need to define what's the name of the attribute set or group. I don't remember, or even simply data extension if I use custom. And later on, with separated with a dot, we refer to the exact field we want to retrieve. So for example, if you would wanted to retrieve the important data, then we specify contact attribute level 1, as this group is saying, and then the name of the field. But later on, if we would want to retrieve the critical stuff value, we don't actually need to define what I would expect, like a specific path. So we don't do contact attribute level 1, level 2, critical stuff. No, just level 2 as an attribute group, attribute set name, and attribute field is enough. So this path is, we don't have to explicitly say what's the connection to the contact that went inside of the journey. And this is kind of hard, especially if you would type it manually. So you would copy it, have to make sure that you have the double quote separated correctly, double the correct number of handlebars, and yeah, this is kind of error prone and not something I would really want to do. So for me, like, the better solution is get this somehow, but copy it. And the good method of doing this is by creating a Salesforce object activity. And let's say we start creating a new task, because that causes us to not have to worry about matching it with the ID or anything. So it's kind of easy to do. And then you have the option to select which field you want. So let's say here we selected the subject, and we have the option to select if you want to pull data from contact data or journey data. And with this, it's quite simple. We select from this list, from this dropdown, drill into the attribute groups, simply select it, and yeah, this is our data binding string that gets us the contact key from the entry event data extension. So this is quite powerful, and you can then later just copy it into your text editor or choice, and later use it in the update contact block. But some other examples. So this was the contact key. Here we retrieve the contact key in a different way from contact data, not the entry event data. And here we have the example of retrieving the email demographics in language code. Yeah, so I just need to warn you to be extra careful with using data binding, and because it can cause errors, and those errors will eject people out of journeys. So they will not proceed further. They will not receive communication that's afterwards. So you need to be extra careful. So test the journeys beforehand, ensuring that data extension fields can accept values that you want to push. So if, for example, the data that you want to push is 100 characters long, but your you use just the default text length of 50, then it will fail. So my recommendation is to test, test, and test. So we can also use the data binding with Salesforce object activities, as I mentioned before. So imagine you have a simple journey that is creating a task. We can then use this trick that I showed before with creating another task. So we add another task activity, and this task activity allows us to get the Salesforce object ID with this type of string into another object. So one example of this that you could use is to chain the creation of Salesforce object together. So you could first create a case for customer care that you have in your company, and then assign a specific task in a second activity and bind the task to the case that you would have from which you would have the ID here. And later on, you just create a new update contact activity, which has the copied string from here. So we copy this into our text editor or whatever, and we add this. So this string will retrieve the contact ID. So the full 18 character length ID that we need to identify the records. So this could be very useful for debugging, like what went wrong or whatever. And this is an example of records created this way. So we have the subscriber key who entered the journey and the task ID that was created. Of course, before we launch this journey, we need to remove this task that is not configured properly. It was just used to get this string. And what's really interesting is that with this approach of data binding, we can see that those strings have a specific structure. So interaction, then the name of the activity, the key, and the output. So what I wanted to test is, can we wrap the journey snapshot this way? And it turns out we kind of can, if it's the official name for this. So I did a test and created the data extension that has no primary keys and can log very long text. So it doesn't have the limitation of 4,000 characters or whatever. And then in the expression and in the journey, I use just this event, because previously it was event dot the name of the data extension prefixed with event and the field. But using this, I wanted to check what we can log. So let's see what we can find. So first of all, I tested with an API call, and yeah, I supplied not a lot of data in this API call, just a contact key. And this API call was successful. It returned the event instance ID. And what did we get then? So we are getting all of the data that is the animation was supposed to work in a different way. Okay. So now we can see that just with this event string alone, we are able to catch what the event instance ID from the response to our API call. So this can be very powerful if you want to have an exact match between what you are logging and later debugging what went wrong in some journeys that use API call triggers. yeah, you can also see the custom object key, which is kind of important. But well, let's just say that you see, I only supplied in the API call this value. All of those other values, parameters that we can see here, those are actually data extension fields that I have in the, like, you know, when you first create an API trigger data journey, you need to first set up a data extension, the data extension to configure the event that catches the API call. And those, all of those parameters represent fields from that data extension. So this custom object key is a hidden attribute of each data extension record. And it's a number that grows incrementally with each record. So the very first record in a data extension probably has the 1 here. The next second one has 2, and so forth. Yeah, so you can have a very good overview of what was what entered the journey, and it can be very powerful for debugging. So with data extensions, triggers, and then we have this, like, this is my test group. Oh my god, this animation. And you can see also that, you know, there's an event instance ID, and also the custom object key referring to the index, basically, of the record inside of the data extension. So there's two people have entered, and those two objects represent actually those two entries. You can see that they differ, and yeah, what the structure is. And the even instance ID or the audience ID that's in here has no connection with the customer object or object ID that represents the source data extension. So this seems to be assigned at random. What in the case of, let's just get this. I mentioned that this custom object key is invisible, but you can actually retrieve it using SQL. So this is an example of query that is able to retrieve the custom object key of your entry event data extension. So this also gives you some more control and allows you to, when debugging, match the records exactly with what you have in the logs. So here's an example of the custom object key being made visible. And also there's a hidden created date field, which tells us when exactly a given record was created. It does not change when the record gets updated. So it can be quite useful as well. So next we can check what's the Salesforce data that we receive. And yeah, I didn't configure the entry event to push a lot of data, so just the account ID, contact ID, email, and the opt-out status, or the has opted out of email field, which it really is called in Salesforce. That's the API name. And I tested with 2 changes, and again, I need to see what goes inside. And you can see that there's again this even instance ID, which is the unique identifier for the journey run. And the rest is this is the data that's in this data extension. So there's also the custom object key, which allows you to bind the data exactly with the log that you have. And I was also curious if we can grab data from the WhatsApp inbound chat entry event. So I tested it with basic journey. So update contact immediately after the inbound chat entry event. The setup was simple. We just trigger each time customer send us something that contains the word start. So start fits. This also contains the word start, and even this, where the start is not a separate word, works as a trigger in this case. And yeah, what can we find then? So we again have the event instance ID, and we retrieve the mobile number. So we know which mobile number contacted us. So this already is good. We can see that the channel here is WhatsApp, and what's the contact key based on the assignment of our data, and what keyword has been used. So the keywords defined here. Kind of disappointing we don't get the entire string that the customer has sent, but yeah, it is what it is. At least we have this type of data, and we can kind of use it and have a better understanding, because in my understanding, the inbound chat doesn't have a data extension, or I haven't found it when testing it. So it's good to at least have this type of log. So in my requirements for this session, I said that I would want to create something like this. And now let's see if we can do it with data binding. So I create a more complex journey with 4 control points, let's say. I'm using data binding, and what I haven't told you before is that you can actually use data binding to push multiple values into one field. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to create a record ID. So when we have this structure, it means this as an ID, and so this is an example of 1, but in our case, it would be the contact key with the @, and then the random string representing the individual journey run. So utilizing this, when we have the same record ID populated in all 4 activities, should give us the one record populated by multiple update contact blocks. And I configured it this way to first log the entry date when the customer already entered the journey after the entry event. Then we have 1 minute wait time, random split, and then we log what path the customer has entered. So here we have the first path and the second path. Perhaps naming the convention could be better. And 2 activities that log when someone has entered this path and what path it was. Same here. Afterwards, we just log the exit date. So if this would work, it would be quite powerful, but my test showed that it's kind of caused hard errors immediately. And the journey kind of stopped logging after the first activity. So we can see that this activity worked properly, logged the entry date, logged the record ID I created with data binding. But since this has failed here, nothing gets past that, and the whole journey stops for this person. I wanted to debug this, understand like, hey, maybe some of those activities log wrong data. So this is kind of why there are 1 minute wait times between those activities of logging data, because then knowing that fails, I did the crazy thing. So after the customer enters, I was checking constantly if the record appears. So this record appeared. Then I took a screenshot, removed this record, and saw that when the customer entered the second path, another record appeared, and it was exactly what I wanted it to be. But yeah, still, I just took the screenshot, deleted the record, and waited, and yes, the third record appeared. So in theory, it should work. The records have the IDs. They log the required values, but in the end it fails. So my conclusion was that Journey Builder is kind of allergic to upserts of different records with the same primary key in the same engine run. So since those three records have the same ID, it somehow caused this to fail, and this setup is kind of incompatible with what we want to achieve. So I also kind of changed it. So first, because for the first, my data extension did not contain a subscriber key, so I added it in a second run, test run, and I related the subscriber key to subscriber key and had my record ID. So I thought maybe it would work, but no, we don't know it won't. So yeah, it kind of worked at first. You can see that it correctly logged what I wanted, so the failures of the past are still here, visible, but I achieved what I wanted at first, though. So one Journey Builder run created just one record with multiple activities, populated everything. It's kind of what I wanted, but we need to test it further. And it's kind of shows that it's a failure because I made 2 requests with 2 different subscriber keys, and I learned that not changing any records, not creating the data extension. I see that my initial record for this Salesforce contact ID has been overwritten by the new value. For the new contact, it's worked correctly because like there's only one and just inserted the new record. So I decided I would perhaps disable the send relationship. So this thing here, and no, it's still override. So even though the data extension relationship changes, it's not sendable anymore. Then Journey Builder still thinks the subscriber key is the primary key of the data extension, overwriting whatever we have here, and using basically the subscriber key instead of our random ID that we have here generated. So that's a bummer. We just failed to do one of the requirements, but one of them shown only one of the 2 ways we can succeed. So we need to try to do another structure, and I can see I have copy pasted the wrong structure. So what I want to achieve now is have each record, record be like each update contact activity to create a different record. So if we have 3 update contact activities, we can have 3 records per person for each individual run. You can test it with 2 send relationships. So with first adding the data extension to the update contact activity and later sneakily disabling the send relationship. And I also tested it with the subscriber key relationship being there. So the structure of the journey was this, so similar as before. I just removed the wait times to make it clearer. And yeah, here we log more data. We log the contact key, but in all of those update contact activities, we use the same record ID structure. So we use the context definition instance ID, which is the individual journey run ID. Then we use the @ sign as a separator. And what kind of sucks, we need to manually add like an identifier of each of those control points that we want. So I'm just adding 1 to A because I decided this is the path 1, this is the path 2A, and this is the path 2B. And yeah, I also log this as like a control point. Now we're using contact key, which probably is the most important data binding expression we have. And then I logged this random our data binding expressions. And with this structure, it worked, and it worked in both cases. So each contact that has run for the journey has created 3 records. Some people are going through the 2A path, 2B, 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 and 2A. And no record is overwritten. The key is so unique enough to not overwrite anything. So it works both in a configuration that the data extension is sendable and has the send relationship. But also it works when the send relationship is not there. So to summarize, what have we learned? So we can split it into 2 parts. So update contact, we repeat what we have learned. It cannot run Amscript. We can generate random IDs. And the subscriber key relationship acts as a hidden subscriber key and a hidden primary key. And hard errors in the journey eject customers from it. And when it comes to data binding, we can grab different type of data. So journey data, we can grab the entire journey snapshot with just the event string. We can grab the contact data from attributes with super complex strings that I recommend you just copy from the interface and just use that. And if you want to type, just type the contact key like this. And also very powerful string is the contact definition instance ID that is being found in the journey context data. And you can use multiple data binding expressions into one field in both the update contact activity, and also you could use it to push multiple fields into longer fields on the Salesforce object. So for example, if your task has task or a case has a description, then you can use this data binding method of putting multiple values into one field and really give the customer care agents the exact context of the journey that they need, so that they can have a better understanding why this case was created, what was the state of the data of the customer at that time, and also allows you to grab IDs of those Salesforce objects that you have created or updated for debugging or some inventory that you want to do. The use cases for this are chaining Salesforce objects. So this is kind of what I alluded to before. You create that case first, and then you create a new task, and you can assign the task to belong to this case that you have created. So this would make it more clear and yeah, straightforward and to work in Salesforce when customer care is working the records you have created. Then you can also use this for debugging. So imagine that you notice that something is wrong with the decision split. So you can create update contact activity before and after the decision split, so you can have a better understanding like what happened here and exactly log the data that you would need. You can match API calls that injected people into customer into the journey exactly with so you know when API call made, this ID is being returned. So your IT probably has those logs somewhere. So if you know that something is wrong with an API triggered journey, this ID combined with the event data binding expression allows you to exactly know that this entry event is responsible for that call. So quite powerful and would be really useful in integrations. And you can also create control groups. So when onboarding new customers, you can randomly assign them to a control group which has some communication excluded. So you can measure that what's the influence of your communication compared to a person that doesn't receive any communication. But just be worried that you need to understand that the random split is not working, perhaps as you expect. So it doesn't like take every second person to go on a path. So it's kind of like a coin toss. So if you have a 50-50 split in a decision in the random split, that means that it's just like a coin toss. So it can end up with out of, for example, I had 6 people, and in my one of my tests, just one person entered the second path. So perhaps control groups could be done this way. Of course, this was a small group, test group of 6 people, but with a larger group, it should just even enough, like statistically speaking. And with this, we're done. So thank you for your attention. You can visit my blog to read about the article, the data binding, and you can connect on LinkedIn to learn what I do and get more information once I publish new articles.
Amazing. That was such a cool deep dive. Very cool. It's so cool, just the basics of not needing, you get 6 fields out of the update contact because the subscriber key automatically gets populated. Just super cool. And then just wonderful. Any questions for Rafal before we break?
But there was a question if this PowerPoint would be shared, so I would clear it up and perhaps make it available online with the whole data expression table, so that is easy to copy, not needing to refer to the PowerPoint.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for joining, and we'll see you at hands-on. Oh yeah, can you, Rafal, could you drop the link in the chat for your...
You mean for the article, I guess? Opening it now. Okay, so this is, oh, sorry. So this is the link to my initial article. I guess I need to revamp it now because we now know with the more complex example of the journey that logs multiple, just uses multiple update contact points. So need to I just probably need to make a new article based on this that I have shared. And there also you will just find the links to socials, and yeah, I guess that's it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. And everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.